What's up? Plugged on. Tyler, Keith, Sam, Frank.
I got it.
Guys, we need to talk about us.
What about us?
You got something to say about us?
I do have things to say about us. It's getting weird. Things are weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't try to make it weird.
I did, 100%.
You made it weird about 5 minutes ago. Screaming at my
I don't know.
cat, crawling on all fours.
I don't know how that's weird. I was just, chasing your cat off.
What do you mean? How I don't know? You don't know how that's weird?
I mean, y'all were making noises too. I was just
Yeah, but except you were doing it crawling after a cat.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That's just.
I don't know how that's so much more weird.
We're going to talk about the movie Us. We just saw it. This is the second movie from Jordan Peele. He directed Get Out.
It's a very good movie.
This is excellent. Wait, you saw it?
I have seen Get Out. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I
finally got around to it. That's a great movie. Get Out, dude. That's great. Get Out was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was very, very intrigued by this movie going in because the trailers were amazing for this movie.
Yeah, the trailers were really well made.
One of the creepiest trailers that I saw I've ever seen. And, I think this movie isn't awful, but there's some just confusing things about it in the end. And it ended up being a different movie than I thought it was going to be. I'll just say that.
Yeah, like some of my actual issues. If we do a spoiler section,
I'm
I
sure
can
we will.
get into with the spoiler section because, as you said, I went in thinking it was a much more intimate movie, and then it becomes I guess a much bigger thing. Is how I'll word it now, but yeah. I think the thing that stood out to me the most about it was the score, the soundtrack. The score is really good. From just a very Shaun of the Dead-esque moment where there's something happening and Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys is playing in the background, and also Fuck the Police by NWA was also on. It's just in a different spot. I'm this is cool. But then the original soundtrack was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I thought. And just kind of there's one scene early in the movie when they're on the beach, and it's supposed to be a hip hop thing, but then it has those sort of the horror sound effects thrown into the beat. And I'm ooh, that's really creative. I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, stuff like that. Acting was great. I'll let somebody else go for a second. So.
Staying on the music front there, I thought what they used right at the beginning, that original score was very haunting. Just the way that the vocals went through, it just sounded so, it sounded it didn't sound human in a way. It sounded like they were put through some sort of metal tube in a filter. It was really, I don't know, it just sounded, it reminded me of Nier a little bit.
Yeah.
That soundtrack, but it was a lot more, just creepy a little.
Yeah.
About the music or anything?
Anything.
I appreciate how the movie takes some familiar concepts and turns them around a little bit. The movie consistently surprises everyone that's watching it. We kind of talked about, you didn't think it was going to be the movie that you thought it was going to be. I like that ability to really go in a different direction, but then I think the final product is still really good. I liked some of the like I said, familiar concepts, but they kind of take them and make them very strange. The way that each of the, I guess, 4 main cast, the family, the way they also portray their doppelgangers is really interesting and very there's a point in the movie where you start to understand things, toward the end, where you're sort of oh, okay, this sort of explains some things, and then you start to look back, and I think the performances really stand out of what or who they're portraying. I think that some of those things really make a lot more sense. I think the hair and makeup team, I think they did a really good job. Yeah, some of like the acting, just in terms of expression, was really interesting. This movie had a lot of that. There's a lot of nuance to this movie. A lot of like subtle details and things like that. That I'm not a person that wants to sit there and just look for those small things. Like, I'd rather watch the movie and sort of take it in as a whole experience. And if I watch it again, maybe the second time through, I'll look for some of those smaller things. But some of the things, sort of themes that you see repeating from even the introduction, the credits, the introductory credits, to like sort of later on in the movie. Like I was talking about, there's a point in the movie where some things happen and it sort of explains a lot. You kind of like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, there's this sort of symbolism and things that sort of you're playing match the thing here and there throughout the movie of like, oh, okay, this is sort of like, that's why that happened. And it's like some small things like that sort of click. Not a lot of movies do that anymore. If they do, it's not really in that style. Like, again, taking familiar concepts and sort of mixing them up a little bit. Just some overall strange things, and at least with what Jordan Peele did in Get Out, in terms of, I think, pushing suspense to the front rather than just scary, I think is what really gets the movie across for me. Setting up a really good tone, really keeping an audience on edge throughout the movie, where you're not really sure what's going to happen. And I don't think this movie may not have been like we sort of touched on exactly what you expect. So I don't know if it's as much horror as you might expect, but there's a lot of suspense, a lot of thrills in the movie, or some thrills in the movie that will sort of, I think lends itself to being a more full movie rather than just very straight and narrow horror, I think. But I appreciate a number of things that this movie does. There are some things that I think, maybe if we talk about spoilers and things like that, specific things I don't really want to get into, it gives away a bit in the movie. But there's some things I'm like, I start to question a little bit. I'm like, well, what's kind of like I guess to use kind of like a video game word, but what's like the lore behind this? Like, how does this work in the world? And then I'm kind of like, oh, wait, no, I should just enjoy the movie. Like, there are a lot of things up front. There are a lot of things in this movie that they give you to think about that are really cool, really interesting. The performances were great. But then there's that part of me that starts to think like, okay, well, how does this work in the world? Like, at one point, someone, a doppelganger gets hit in the head with like a fire poker or something, and they're fine. But I'm like, can they die? Are they like super strong? Or like, there's some small things like that I'm like, I'm like, how does that really work? But I don't want to get into it too much because I feel like that's not the focus of the movie. But yeah, it does create an interesting world where you start to ask some more questions. But yeah, I think overall, really solid product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. I think one thing that I really liked about it, I'll say this. I was going into this thinking it was going to be a little bit more horror than it was. Ended up being. And I agree with you that I like, between this and Get Out, like Jordan Peele is fantastic at suspense. And that's what was the best thing about Get Out. That's probably the best thing here as well, of just that suspense and not knowing what's going to happen. But then also a lot more comedy in this than I thought there was going to be. Yeah. I don't think it was all bad. Like it was all pretty. I mean,
it's stuff that you'd kind of expect. Like there were a lot of dad jokes that like you would kind of expect dads around today would say.
The dad was a goofy guy, which I liked.
And the sort of thing about that too is the interesting part about the comedy parts of the movie is when the comedy parts were really happening and coming through, they really worked, but also the movie wasn't like horror at that moment. Like every time that comedy sort of happened, it was like its own little section where you felt like I can appreciate this for comedy and not worry about like someone jumping in or anything like that. Like it was kind of like there was a bit of a break-off point, I think, of when comedy, and then it got back into the movie.
There was one or two moments where I was like, okay, this is kind of a little bit weird, like in the middle of like, or just like, boom, just immediately after a scene, it's like, boom, oh, here's something funny, and it's like,
Yeah.
all right, it could have been a little bit of a
Mhm.
let the music die down or whatever a little bit, but I'm like, yeah, I agree. The comedy was really well done. So.
Yeah, and the performances were fantastic. Like the dad character, from Winston Duke, Gabe was his character. Like I thought he brought a really different element to the movie that I just did not expect him to have at all. But then the main chick, Lupita Nyong'o, I said that right? But who played Adelaide?
Adelaide.
Yeah. She was by far the best to me, and her facial expressions were incredible. Kind of like the main guy in Get Out, Daniel something, isn't it? I forget his last name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, like it's the same thing of just really incredible performance, not only through, how they're delivering their lines or anything, but a lot of times just in the face.
And there are a lot of close-up shots that really express that.
Yeah. And very interesting camera work at times, especially a very specific shot towards the end that I don't want to spoil right now. But it was like so close to the person's face. I was like, that I did not expect that camera shot to happen. It was weird. So
it almost looked like not real.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
bizarre.
in some ways it probably. Well, again, spoilers.
The
In some ways, it probably
the whole movie
wasn't.
was CG.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. The whole movie was CG. There were no actors.
Yeah. Also,
Wasn't real.
some interesting characters. Elizabeth Moss. I thought she would be in the movie a little bit more than she was, but it's interesting. I just finished watching all The Handmaid's Tale, and that's like a super depressing, serious show, and she's great in that. So it was interesting seeing her in a more lighthearted role, and then pairing her with Tim Heidecker. Tim from Tim and Eric, basically, was like, I just didn't expect those two to really be in the movie in the way that they were.
Yeah.
That guy's
I would say both those families, like, they're just awful. Like they don't work as families very well, and it's especially in the Tyler family with Elizabeth Moss and Tim Heidecker. They that's a bad couple, but also like with Adelaide and Gabe, like they don't know how to communicate at all. Like I know like it probably makes more sense once you've watched the entire movie, but at the towards the beginning of the movie, you're like, yo, this couple doesn't communicate.
Yeah.
They don't like how did they get this far and they haven't talked to each other about some things?
Yeah. And I also feel like Jordan Peele is getting to now he's only really done 2 major movies like this, but I feel like he's kind of has potential to get to the point almost like an M. Night Shyamalan, where you're like, I kind of need to see all of his movies and also what's the twist in every movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you go in knowing this, and this is how it ends up because of a certain twist, and it's like
I just hope he doesn't fall into the same traps that like M. Night Shyamalan does, where it's like it's every time it's like it's got to be bigger and it's got to be better, and then it's just like, and then you get like The Happening, or like The Village or something like that, where it's like, man, I don't know, man, you're reaching a little bit with some of these. I don't think that's the case with this one. I think all the twists and turns are maybe in some ways expected, but they're pulled off in a nice way, I think. But yeah, all the acting is great, especially like surprising to have 2 really good like younger child actors with the actors who play Zora and Jason. They're both really good. I mean, also they have to play two completely different characters, and so
they did a good job with the doppelgangers. Making you almost think that they're not the same actors or actresses in a way. Like they do look different. I was for a little bit there when they first all showed up and they broke into the house. I was like, are they actually different people? And they just tried their best to make them look this like them. But no, I mean the way they totally did 2 different characters. I thought
save
really
money
good.
on casting and get one.
Yeah, exactly. You get 2 people, and also
they need
like
Adam Sandler and Eddie Murphy in this.
I mean, he saw Split and he was like, well, I can't do it. Not everyone's James McAvoy, but maybe I can get some actors who can do 2.
You can do 2, and then like, but also like how even then all the doppelgangers kind of they're different people, but they do like imitations of the actual person. Like again, the main one that I kind of noticed this mostly because it sort of was. I think it was supposed to be funny, but with Tim's character, Tim Heidecker's character, how like I don't know, he's just being like all dumb. The doppelganger is. I'm like, all right, that's
my favorite
that's really
part
funny.
That of his was when he slicked back his hair, kind of.
So he went to help up his wife,
and he's like, yeah. Like that is ripped straight from Tim and Eric.
Or when he's walking around like outside at one point and he just has his hands on his hips and he's just like, all right. So some very good acting on this part, but yeah. I think that's all I got. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean that's all I got. I mean I do want to talk some spoilers because there's some weird things that happen, and interesting things. So I mean, I think it's good.
Yeah.
What would you guys give it?
I'll give it a 9. I liked it. I give it a 9.
Wow.
9 out of 10.
Okay.
I liked it. I like it. All the issues I have with the movie aren't movie breaking. They're just more so of like I don't know if I would have done things this way, if that makes sense.
Well, you're not a writer, director, and producer of a movie, so I'd probably lean towards a 7.5. Personally, that's how I feel on it. It's good. It's enjoyable. I just don't think it's the best that Jordan Peele can do.
Cat causing some havoc.
No.
Could be a doppelganger of the cat. You never know.
Could be.
What would it
rating?
be?
I don't know. I'd say maybe like I mean, all the positives. I think the acting was really good. I think the direction of the movie was really interesting. Whether there were some times where I was like, oh, well, you know, I sort of like, well, how does this work? How does that really work? I still think the movie kept me into it the entire time. There were a couple parts where I think just naturally the movie would be a little bit slower to build suspense. But there were some times where there was nothing at the end of that suspense, really, and it was just suspense. But it did keep me engaged. The camera work was really good. This isn't... Before I give my final score, I did notice that the screen... We go to like a pretty nice movie theater. It's not bad. Yeah. But I noticed the screen was kind of like dirty in some areas. Like I saw like spots on it. Like especially when they were out on the beach and it was like bright and everything. I'm looking at like a certain spot. I'm like, is that like a movie thing? Is that like, oh wait, no, I think that's just a dirty like screen or something.
Oof.
So 1 out of 10 for the screen. For the screen, I would say like 8.5. I think maybe after like watching it again, I think the score could go up. So you start to see more of the intricacies that you can't really see the first time around, and start to pay attention to some more of those things. I think 8.5, pretty fair.
Yeah,
to give man.
That's what I would say. 8.5. It is a movie I feel like I need to watch again just to pick up on some of those things.
Yeah.
Now that you know how it ends, you can probably rewatch it and it would be a much different experience. So
yeah.
I will say some of the sounds in there, like
weird.
Yeah.
Weird sounds and also some gross sounds.
Very gross sounds. Yeah.
But
Spoilers at this point.
Spoilers. Yeah. So
spoilers. There's some neck breaking sounds.
Yeah. Oh, there's some.
Can I say like one of my favorite things about the movie that it is a spoiler, but
go for it.
It's the fact that Adelaide's doppelganger can't really speak properly, and then you see it like at the end of the movie. It's because
she got choked out.
The original doppelganger like choked out the real Adelaide and like crushed her throat all up, and then when she's like, that's why she's the only one that could, like, it makes sense that she's the only one that could speak because she was like out in the real world.
Oh yeah, I never picked up on that.
Her also her throat was all like messed up because of that, and I'm like, that explains it. That's why she can talk, because she used to be out in the real world, and that's why her voice all messed up now because she got all choked out and everything. And then the doppelganger like handcuffed her to the bed, which is like you go back and you're like, as soon as they came into the house, the real Adelaide, who's now the doppelganger, is like, all right, handcuff yourself. Just to like some of these things that I go back to, I'm like, that makes sense now. Like drawing the comparisons, I think like the end of the movie I thought was really interesting because I mean, not only does he like give you an answer like, okay, this is what it is, but he puts a lot of other little things in there to be like, yeah, this is why this happened. You start like going back and you're like, all right, there are different parts of the movie where he's like small things like that I really liked about the movie.
Yeah, it's like there's the slow build of like
come.
Yeah. where like you notice like, which again, thinking back on it after hearing you talk about that with like Adelaide, is like how so visceral and violent she is when dealing with any of the other doppelgangers.
Yeah, like the fact that when
like more so than
the
anybody
daughter
else.
gets like the doppelganger daughter gets like flung off the car, and so she stops and goes out to like look for her, and was kind of like shh and everything, like she almost cared, and then when the son doppelganger was like backing into the fire, how she was kind of like not happy about it.
Yeah.
So that's because that's her doppelganger family.
Yeah.
Like parts like that were really cool. How it like you look like, oh well, she did care because she's one of them, or
Something. Yeah. There's only really, again, my two issues that I really only had, which one of them was, I almost wish it would have stayed
screen?
a bit more. Well, that too, but
Okay.
even though I didn't really
I'm
notice.
the only person who noticed that.
Yeah.
I
It was
didn't
like,
like it.
I almost wish the movie would have stayed a little bit more of like the intimate thing with just the family.
Like in one house, or
not even
just
when
the
like,
one family,
or just like not a big scale thing.
yeah, because at some point it did turn into like, is this a zombie movie? Because it's this worldwide thing now.
Yeah. Like honestly, the part where it kind of dropped off for me there was when they're watching like the news thing, and I'm like, okay, you don't need this. Like, but which
that's how they set up sequels. They do it with different families.
But yeah, but that was the thing. I mean, honestly, my favorite shot in the whole movie is the one with, I guess, in the other family's house, and they're all in the same shot, but then you see all the doppelgangers come out in like one shot and you kill them. I'm like, that is, I love shots
the
like
music's
that.
going,
and I'm like, I love shots like that. So
And it was really cool how they did the color on that to help make it like pop for you.
Yeah, and then the only other thing was there's like, which again, I guess maybe the more I think about it makes sense, but so there's the Red, which is Adelaide's doppelganger, and she gives like a speech towards the end of the movie, and it kind of like
What speech was it?
it was the one where she's like cutting up the family thing, and she's talking about all the stuff, and the only thing that threw me off was like, which granted it's probably shot that way so that it makes that final reveal a little bit more shocking, even though I kind of went into the movie, I'm like, if one of those doppelgangers doesn't take the place of somebody else, you're doing the movie wrong.
Yeah.
But like, they show stuff that she wouldn't be there for, like
what?
Like, but like of the original doppelganger, like walking through, like mirroring Adelaide at the carnival. Like, you weren't, if you're the real Adelaide, you weren't there for that. How do you know? Like, I don't know. It's just it was shot in a weird way where I'm like, it was just the way that it was shot and the way that she explained things. I'm like,
I'm not sure that the shot referencing the original is referencing her memory of the original. I think it's
I meant not of the up above ground on the carnival. Like how would you know about her walking through the underground and what that looks like? Or maybe that's from the
I think
other
it's
one's
just for
eyes.
context.
It's for context
to
but,
set up the thing.
But I think the other main thing was, I don't know. I just find it almost just maybe a little bit too much for me, that all of a sudden that like she gets trapped down and she's like, okay, I'm one of you now. I don't know. Or like, it just seems weird that she would all of a sudden feel sympathetic towards them and then want to go out and kill the original one when she's like, yeah, I get it, you wanted to be out in the real world.
There is
like,
that sort of thing, like I was kind of saying, like, how does the world work? Like, how do the doppelgangers actually work? Because there's that one part where Tim Heidecker's doppelganger, like, they go up to the house and he opens the door and she like smacks him in the head with the fire poker thing. I'm like, wouldn't that kill him or something? And it's like, is he a zombie or something? Like, I didn't know. But yeah, then there's this whole thing of like, she did get handcuffed to the bed down there, so I get why she's stuck. But then eventually she gets out, and then she can't just like walk back up to the surface or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she like knows the way out, or I don't know how she got trapped down there. Like,
it's just it's just like little weird things like that.
I mean, that's sort of the thing that I try not to think about it too much.
Yeah.
I guess 'cause it's sort of like well.
It was just the fact that it was at the end, and it kind of it took me out a little bit once the big reveal happened. That she's really the tethered, I guess was what the doppelgangers are called.
Yeah.
And I'm like So yeah, I mean, I should probably just stop thinking about it because I enjoyed the movie more. But it's just like it just took me out of it in that moment, and I'm like, and then the movie ended, and I'm like, so that's my last thoughts on this movie, and that's why it kind of sticks with you. It's like but.
So were these doppelgangers? Maybe I missed something. Like, were they like some experiment or some shit?
Yeah, it was like a government experiment.
Where they were trying to clone everybody to try to control them.
Yeah, because she was talking about clones, and I'm like
you get one soul between two people. I don't understand the rabbits. Maybe I'm just not getting it. I didn't understand.
That's all they ate. My thought is maybe like rabbits are experimented on a lot. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I just thought that was weird too. My thing. Maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way or whatever, because they do the whole hands across America thing, and the last shot is just a bunch of it.
That was how the movie began, with her watching the hands across America thing, and then that's how it ends.
But my thing is like, is all the real people like dead now, and it's just these doppelgangers?
Could be. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. That's a weird, interesting world.
You know, that was another thing that I just found weird. It was like another one of those things with like the big scale where I'm like, granted that sort of is like a clue to clue you in on that she's the real one, that Red's the real one, but like I'm like, you added this in just so that you can do the whole big world thing. Like that's the only reason this exists, and I'm like that. It was okay. I could have done without that stuff. But
that's one of the things I'd have to watch it a second time to see if there's like anything else that I would really notice about it.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
But if this is a government experiment, how in the hell does logistics allow this whole conclave to have a bunch of scissors?
You know what?
Like, where'd they get all that shit? I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I did not even think of that.
And also like. Maybe another thing I'm just thinking about differently, but there's that whole creepy mirror house place. Nobody goes in there at any point and just happens to wander through that entire place down to where all these doppelgangers are.
Yeah,
there was the secret door.
There was.
Yeah,
but nobody goes like, what's behind this door? And some dumbasses grabs their 15-year-old friends and they all end up going down there.
Maybe they did and they got murdered.
Maybe, but I was like, that's kind of weird.
I mean, granted, it was more of like the more traditional horror fan in me. I almost wish that like somehow that House of Mirrors had a little bit more to do with the fact that there was doppelgangers. Like that's what I thought at first. I was like, so wait, are there just doppelgangers of people who go to this boardwalk and go in there? But then I'm like, wait, but this is the first time like the kids have been in there. So I'm like,
it would have made much more sense if this was more of a supernatural thing than a government experiment thing. It would have. I feel like the movie would have worked better if they didn't try to explain it away.
Which even then they leave it very like it's just like it's a government experiment. What are they? It's like there you go, it's done. But
and then there was the guy in the beginning that the sun was going up to, and he was out.
Jeremiah's doppelganger.
Like again, he's imitating him. He's all, I don't know. He could also be getting ready. Like he's like, I've killed my other person. I am ready in the chain.
There was a bug. He got stuck in the T-pose.
Yeah.
He did. They did show the real one dead.
The real one was dead.
The real one was dead, and so then he's like, either he's imitating him, which I don't think that's what he's just standing there. He's like, I'm ready. T-posing, yeah.
T-pose.
The Matrix glitched.
And, yeah. Okay. Yeah, see, there's some smart shit sometimes in this movie.
And then they subverted things too. Like when the kid walked up to him, like that's not the real kid. When Jason, the one who wears the mask, I'm like, that's not him. Mm-hmm. Like he got switched out. That's immediately what I thought when he ran into him. But I'm like, and then it didn't happen. Yeah.
One thing I don't understand is why the Jason's doppelganger had like half of his face burnt.
That's thinking about it too much.
That was one of the small things that I feel like I'd have to watch again.
He is a pyro.
Yeah, but knowing this movie, I feel like it could be some sort of hint at something else. So why I would want to watch it for a second time.
So at the end, when they're all driving away in the ambulance, the real doppelganger kind of smiles.
he looks at her son. I'm like,
Yeah,
I didn't
and I'm
understand
like,
that scene either.
Does the son know?
I think
Because he was
suspects.
really weird after, I guess, the real person was killed. He was really weird when she saved him and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here." He was kind of like shaking his head, like, "No." So I don't know. Maybe,
He just saw
or
his mom brutally murder someone.
Yeah, and maybe that's what he's
Herself.
just kind of scared of who she is or who could
Yeah,
like
she
it
could
could
be
have
or
been
whatever.
that
But I don't know.
when the person who we thought was the doppelganger like snatched him up and ran away with him. Maybe she told
Said
him
something.
or something.
Could have been.
I don't know.
Also that leaves an interesting thought. Both of those kids are like half doppelgangers. Like, does that mean? I don't know if that means anything. Like, technically, if she's like a tethered or whatever they are.
Well, no, they're
like
human
half.
too.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Because that was the whole thing. It was like, oh,
Mhm.
I can't do the whole like I need to crush my
Yeah.
throat, but yeah, we're human too, sort of thing. I like the one scene when it was like sort of that flashback, and she was like walking down the hall, and then you kind of peer into that room with people like ripping apart like all the rabbits and
Yeah.
eating them. That was
It
like
was kind of
yeah.
creepy.
that was cool.
I do like during that whole sequence when they showed the people all like in one little room. They're acting like they're on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
or they're on the
Like
spinning
around,
thing.
yeah.
Like what the fuck?
It's like, man,
Yeah,
like some
crazy.
good shit though.
crazy shit. Yeah,
I said this a little bit before we started recording, but that last fight scene between between the doppelganger and the Adelaide's character and the doppelganger. That fight scene reminded me a lot of fighting a boss in a From Software game,
Yeah.
where I'm the one swinging
Just
around the
dancing
pipe,
around.
and the boss is just dancing around me, making me look like a fool.
this thing.
But yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. I liked
Yeah.
it.
I want to know what the 11:11 was about. Because
Wait,
the
I
guy
think
was holding
it's
up the sign, it was
it's a Bible
11:11,
verse.
and then the clock was 11:11. I want to watch it again
So
to see what
I'm
that was
looking-
about.
Jeremiah 11:11.
So I'm
That
looking
was a pilot.
in here. So the real character's name is Alan, but he was holding a Jeremiah 11:11 sign, and they
Isn't it like
credit
a
the
Bible thing or
doppelganger to
something?
be.
I don't think Jeremiah was in the Bible. I don't know. I had never.
Quick,
I'm not-
Google
quick.
search Jeremiah
Look,
I'm not a big
11:11.
Bible reader.
I'll worry about that later.
But yeah,
I
that's
don't
one of
care
those small things that make me want to watch it again.
Yeah, it's just like all these. Yeah. Well,
I feel like there are a lot of things in the movie if you really want to like I was saying, like there are some parts in the movie where like can't remember his name in the movie, but Tim Heidecker's character gets hit in the head with the fire thing, and I'm like the one twin gets like smacked and falls over the thing and like smashes through the table, and they think she's dead, but then she comes back eventually.
Mhm.
I'm like, are they like super powerful? Are they like stronger than humans or something like that? But I'm like, I mean, I guess they're kind of animalistic in a way, but I don't know. There's some things like that I'm just like, I'm gonna put a lot of this stuff out of my mind. I'm just gonna kind of focus on what the movie's giving me, like the story that the movie wants to tell. So if you could look at that stuff like all day and be like, oh well, it doesn't do this.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. And I was kind of like, I don't really want to ruin the movie for myself. But on that point, to bring up another thing, I guess that's kind of weird, doesn't make sense. I don't know, how are they, like, they're in like an underground place, right?
yeah.
How do they get all that exercise that they can be jumping up on stuff? I know they're mimicking people and whatnot, but how are they like? How can you take a hit to the head?
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing was when
I will say, like after he took that hit to the head, he was moving around a little bit weird.
yeah, but yeah, then Gabe, Winston Duke's character, when his doppelganger was killed, it was so like sudden. I didn't know if he died. I was expecting him to come back, the
Yeah.
dad. I was expecting his doppelganger to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like it happened so suddenly, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then Tim Heidecker's doppelganger was killed off screen, but that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he came back. He's like, yeah, I'm done with boats. No more boats.
No more boats.
Yeah.
Kudos to whoever was, I guess, the stunt double for the one kid, Jason, the one in the mask. Because I mean, I assumed it was either like a shorter person.
He walked into
or,
fire.
I would say like
Yeah.
this fire stunt. I mean, if it was like a teenager who did a fire stunt, I mean, kudos to them. Fire stunts ain't no joke. So that's the last thing I gotta say.
Yeah.
Cool. I got nothing.
Cool. Let us know what you think of us.
And of the movie. I mean, at the same time. So
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to be like a
It's not.
thing where these two movies somehow get tied together, like Get Out and Us. Like if it becomes like a third movie that's like
the Jordan Peele.
there's
cinematic
Bruce Willis
universe.
in it, and you kind of wonder why you bothered watching it.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was Glass. Sorry. That's a whole other thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ho, ho.
Yeah.
Oh,
The next
fun.
movie is going to have Dr. Steve Brule.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange
rule.
rule.
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange rule. All right.
Thanks for watching. See ya.